perspective. Um, I hear what you're saying about all the changes that you're making and sort of your rapid pace of innovation. About 18 months ago, you started to go out into the market and evaluate solutions for test automation. Of course, you're here today. You landed with us. Um, was testing was this use case that you're describing the one that pushed you towards starting to evaluate automated solutions for testing, or were there other use cases as well that came into the picture when you started to say like, okay, let's at least take a look?
Yeah, I think it was this kind of perfect storm of a bunch of things coming together. So I think there were some misses that, me or my team made in testing that kind of created this need for more thorough and completeness in testing, right? And look, I talked about how I did Workday deployments. I've spent a lot of time in different customers' Workday tenants, and I've never had a single customer come to me and say, "Man, John, I wish we spent less time testing." Right? Like it's just I've never had someone
Sure.
say that to me, right? And it's true for good reason. I think, so there were situations like that. There was also, OneDigital, the first 4 or 5 years we were on Workday was really oriented towards like, yes, we added some modules, but a lot of what was going on was kind of keeping a lot of the work was keeping the lights on, staying, up to date with required updates and, basic, really limited regression testing, right? Let's check our critical integrations and hope the non-critical ones don't break.
Yeah.
Which, for most medium-sized enterprises, unfortunately, is something I've heard a lot in my travels. And so there was that, and then we were really entering this stage where, my chief people officer challenged me to say, look, like AI is transforming the way we do business, and that's great. But also, I want us to have one of the best Workday tenants in the ecosystem. And so I
Mm.
want us to be at the cutting edge of everything. And like, there's going to be stuff we can do in Workday, and that's great. There's going to be stuff we can't do in Workday, and that's okay too. But the stuff that we can't do in Workday is still going to be critically dependent on Workday's data, right? And if our configuration is flawed, our data is going to be flawed to the nth degree. And
Mhm.
so there was that piece too. And, because we've got, at any given time, 5, 6, 8, 10 projects going where we're doing transformation inside of Workday for various things, taking on new functionality, deploying new modules. There's all of that. There's just not enough capacity for testing, right? And so then the question becomes, okay, do we add a couple people? And then if we add people, are we adding people that are, specifically like testing? Or are we adding people that are analysts that are expected to test as well? Or do we look at tools, right? And if we're looking at tools, great. What tools make the most sense for us? And, 9 times out of 10, if it's for a very distinct purpose, right, like testing, I'm going to choose a tool over a person because I can scale a tool a lot more quickly than I can scale a person.